Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the IMW webinar of the Automotive Expertise Group. I'm Dirk Kramer, President of IMW. IMW is the largest international organization of independent interim management companies with over 60 offices over the world in 6 continents. The aim of this webinar is to bundle expert knowledge and to address current challenges and situations. We are therefore very happy to count with 3 speakers who have a long experience in the automotive industry and who are willing to share their insights in the industry with us. In the first place, Mr. Ramon Sotomayor, former chairman and former CEO of Antolin Group. He will talk about the large supplier companies, Tier 1, who face technological and organizational challenges as a result of increasing demands of the markets and regulations. Then Mr. Uwe Klaus Hotz, who will provide the strategic and transformational frame. Mr. Heinz Vollrath, who will bring the practical and commercial focus. In the last part, we will have time for questions and answers, and those questions you can put in the chat, and we will address them in the end. The automotive industry is, after retail, financial service, healthcare, and energy, the biggest industry in the world. It creates around 7% of the global GDP and 7% of the global employment. The automotive industry has a total value, total turnover of $3,800 billion, $3.8 trillion, and gives employment to 100 million people in the world. Of these $3,800 billion, 3,000 billion are in countries with IMW partners. This is also the reason why we organize this webinar. But the automotive industry is, apart from very big and important, it is undergoing big changes and facing important challenges. When we look at the assignments of the IMW partners in the automotive industry, there are 4 areas in which we work most: operations and supply chain, things like plant logistics, procurement, etc. Then transformation and restructuring, turnaround, cost cutting, PMI also. Technological transformation and transition is becoming more and more an assignment also. And then we also help with leadership gaps. I hope you will enjoy the webinar, and I pass the word to Mr. Bodo Blanco, who is our partner, or the IMW partner in Germany. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you will enjoy it.
Thank you, Dirk, for the impressive overview of the worldwide automotive sector. Before we dive into the current trends, we want to hear from you, from the audience. From you, from the audience, we have prepared a short poll to understand the pressure you are feeling on the ground. Please look at your screen and answer the following question. What is your biggest challenge right now? Your options are costs, supply chain, technology, staff, and legislation. Please take a moment to choose now. The results are coming in. Cost is the top concern for most of you today. This reflects exactly what we are seeing across the industry, a convergence of pressures that makes this the most demanding transformation phase in automotive history. This brings us to the core of the matter. From my perspective, as an IMW's key partner for automotive, we are not just seeing a single change, we are navigating a triple transformation happening simultaneously. First, e-mobility. Electrification is fundamentally changing our products, our processes, and the competences we need on the shop floor. Second, software. Vehicles are becoming software defined. However, as I always emphasize, the real value of technology, whether it is AI or digital tools, only comes from operational adoption and clear use cases like improved forecasting or predictive maintenance. Third, sustainability. ESG and regulatory requirements are no longer just nice to have. They are now structural imperatives that every supplier must integrate into their business model. The greatest complexity here is that suppliers are forced to operate in two realities at once. You must efficiently manage declining ICE volumes while simultaneously investing in new volatile EV technologies. Finally, we must recognize that while these trends are global, their execution looks very different depending on where you are in the world. In Europe, we see the most intense pressure from legislation and high energy costs, forcing a rapid but difficult shift towards sustainable production. In Asia, particularly in China, the focus is on speed and the aggressive scaling of mobility ecosystems. In America, the priority is often on securing supply chains and navigating the geopolitical uncertainties that disrupt global trade. Regardless of the region, the challenge is clear. Companies need to combine operational excellence with strategic flexibility. Transformation cannot be postponed, but the risks of execution are high. And that is exactly where interim leadership makes the difference. Now, to see how these trends play out in real-world scenarios, let's move to our next point. We have just discussed the global trends, but as I often say, automotive transformation isn't a strategy problem, it is an execution problem. For many suppliers, the question is no longer if they should transform, but how to do it without interrupting daily operations. To show you what this looks like in practice, we have invited 3 experts who have lived through these challenges. They represent what we call the triple transformation: balancing technology, operations, and leadership. First, we will hear from Ramon Sotomayor. As the CEO, Ramon provides the essential client perspective. He will share his experience on how a company mastered this transition from the top down and what he expects from leadership during a period of high-stake change. Then we have 2 interim managers of the year who represent 2 different but equally vital sides of the transformation. Uwe Klaus Hotz will provide the strategic and transformational frame. Uwe specializes in navigating technology waves and managing transformation as a marathon rather than a sprint. He will focus on how to build business ecosystems and the leadership agility required to move a traditional organization into a new mobility area. Heinz Vollrath will bring the practical and commercial focus. Heinz is an expert in the operational consequences of the shift from internal combustion engines in battery electric vehicles. He will talk about the messy reality of managing mixed fleets, redefining service models, and the tangible impact these changes have on your cost structure. Our goal for this session is to show you how operational excellence and strategic flexibility go hand in hand. And to our audience, please feel free to post your questions in the chat as our speakers share their cases. I will be monitoring them to bring into our discussion later. Ramon, let's start with you. From a CEO perspective, what is the greatest challenge in making transformation an operational reality?
Well, thank you very much.
You have the stage, Ramon.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. This is a very complex matter because as things have developed in the last years, not only there are new challenges on the table, but the speed of changes and the uncertainty on the market is racing and is giving us a perspective that changes every day. But the question of first, what technology challenges we have in the industry, I think is twofold. Of course, electrification is the main disruptive element, and but my experience comes from the interior of the car, and we have seen a significant change there from a priority of where the engine and the performance of the car played a very important role to having a far more focus far more on the user experience, on how in the three aspects of a user experience within the car, which is safety, comfort, infotainment. And this has required not only to have new products, but to have a depth of software development, which I think is the key element here. Everything comes now with far more software that needs to be developed and needs to be integrated within an overall vehicle system. And I would say this is the biggest challenge in this new technology drive for the car experience, which inside the vehicle we will see far more euros per unit than before. We will see far more challenges in terms of how to interact with the overall features of the car. I'll give you an example. The lighting of the car has become dynamic. It has become interactive. It is part of the system to help the driving of the car, and all this needs to develop an integration software that also has developed into a different feature. Before we were developing software, then we were developing deeper software, and now you need to integrate that software with a trend to centralize the system where the OEMs fight for the ownership of that centralized system. So I would say that that's one of the biggest challenges, because it poses a transformation in the talent attraction. The profiles of the talent that requires this new market requirement is completely different, not only on the expertise, but also on how they work. Automotive is no longer that attractive in the labor market for this kind of profiles. So you need to adapt your organization to this new talent, these new profiles, to feel that they can develop something that changes their life in their surroundings, and it's not an easy part to attract to an old established industry. But this is I would say in interior we had all other challenges, not only the software and the depth of that software and the integration. We also had a lot of challenges with materials, with the circularity of materials, with the integration of solutions, with the smart surfaces that also develop an interaction with the user. And I would say a very interesting example of this new technology that needs to be developed is the in-mold electronics. And because materials is a challenge, weight is a challenge for the future with the EVs. But an in-mold electronics brings a very interesting approach on having on a foil printed electronics with inserts of LEDs and other components, and then you thermoform all this in different features, reducing the weight, giving many opportunities in design, and this is a trend that probably will take. Now, how do you transform the company to adapt to all these challenges? Is something that I'll give you my opinion in the second point, but this is with respect to the product. But then you have also a big challenge in the production, in the value chain of the whole company. From a technology point of view, the factories need to be far more flexible, need to be far more automated, because the volumes are no longer there. And by the way, they are very fragmented. So the traditional way of volume production lines adapted to a very high volume need to be changed into a far more flexible line full of technology that can adapt to this product for this model and then change to the other product for the other model in the same line. And this seems obvious, possible from a technology perspective, but very tough to adapt in terms of investment, return on investment, but definitely the uncertainty on volumes that the electric vehicle has brought into the equation require to grow into this flexibility. So it's twofold. Technology is changing companies in the production, in the product development part, and is changing significantly in the demands on the production setup to be competitive in that environment. What are the demands from the client that have changed also in this process? Well, of course, the traditional ones of quality, cost, program compliance, I mean, all those are still there, but we need to reduce significantly the time to market. All that technology integration needs to happen, needs to be developed in a shorter period of time. Asia is a reference. All the European OEMs are thinking, why are the Asian competitors far more efficient in developing in a shorter period of time? The first response was, well, they are not developing with the same quality. The reality is that quality and performance are there. Technology integration is far beyond what Europe had done, and they could do that in a much shorter period of time. So that's a big demand. It's time to market. The second is a resilient supply chain. How can you, under this volatility of the market, under the experience that we had in the past with supply chain crisis and the inflationary environment, how can you respond to that. And I would say all that comes to the same point is if you want to be resilient with attending the geopolitics that today are changing so dramatically, you have to combine a friend-shoring with a global best country approach, best cost country approach. All this is changing as we speak. So how do you construct a company that can attend all that? And I would say there's a couple of things I would like to put on the table here is, well, the concept of value chain. It's not only supply chain, it's not only purchasing and logistics, it's a whole value chain. So concentrate and analyze the whole value chain of the company. That involves, of course, manufacturing, of course, engineering. What is each step of that value chain, and how resilient are you within that value chain, and how cost and resiliency, which is a balancing item, can be structured in a way that way you can serve your client and comply with these requirements of resiliency without harming your cost competitiveness. Second is an organizational structure. We come from very hierarchical or structured organizations where you have to avoid silos, you have to put transformation and technology into a transversal equation. So a more dynamic, metrics-oriented organization will help in adapting to that. You have to put the focus on client and client demands. You try to enter the development line earlier in time so you can identify the requirements, and of course all that combined with the attraction of the right talent that fits into a new culture, which I can definitely think that this is probably the hardest part, is adapting your organization to attract the right talent, to give them the possibility to develop their expertise in a new environment. I would say that at the end, adapting the organization to this new challenges would combine these three elements: is talent, dynamic organization, and flexibility in the production side, which can combine different products in the same lines and be responsive to this fragmentation of the market. I will leave it at that, and would love to answer any question that you might have later.
Thank you very much, Ramon. The next expert is Uwe. Uwe, what is your input to this discussion?
Thank you so much, Bodo. A few words about myself. And by the way, good morning, everybody. I've been in interim management for 17 years now. I'm an electrical engineer, and you know, the big transformation to electrification, it started around 2015, 2016, actually initiated with the Volkswagen diesel scandal. And for the last 10 years, I have been doing only electrification. I developed and founded startups for my clients, startups and spin-offs. So I'm working mainly in startup and spin-off environment. And I would say if I need to find a headline, I would say automotive transformation is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so what an organization, what a company needs to develop to be able to perform a marathon is completely different of what companies typically do. Short-term profits are for sure not healthy to do a marathon, because you have to keep the same speed for years and years. And I would say the marathon of automotive transformation is far more than 10 years. I would say up to 15 years. And we see technological disruption in several overlapping waves. So decarbonization is a necessity. It leads to electrification. Electrification leads to software. Software leads to AI. AI leads to production systems that are in future performed by robots. So you will see robots at the production line and fewer workers. And all of these waves, they are coming not one after another. They are coming overlapping, not simultaneously, but overlapping. And in the last 10 years, we have seen different successes or failures of corporations and medium-sized companies, how to tackle this big transformation. So if you look at how you can tackle a big transformation, you have several options. You can say, okay, I'm a big corporation like Bosch. I take a big decision, and I say in February 2018, I will not invest into battery cells, because battery cells are going to be a commodity. This is exactly what Bosch did in February 2018. They said it's a 25 billion investment. We won't invest into it. So Bosch has no battery cell business. They focused on systems. But their perception at that time was wrong, because the real value is not in the battery system. The real value is in the innovation of the battery cell, which is why today BYD is one of the big players in automotive. They started with battery cells and now they sell cars. So this big decision was maybe a big strategic failure, because there is a layoff of many workers now. You can also build a spin-off as a large corporation. You can say, like Volkswagen, I want to invest into software. So I built a software company like CARIAD. But if the software company is actually ruled under the same organization that you have had for many years and decades, which is an organization that is dominated by mechanical engineers, there can be misperceptions and misorganizations, which leads to failure. And some of this failure we see now. It was a multi-billion disaster in the software development. You can also build a spin-off as a mid-sized company. So I had the big pleasure to be able to build a spin-off for a company that reinvented itself 3 times in the last 200 years. I will talk about this a bit. You can acquire a company. So a large corporation buys a small specialist, for example. I've been working for a large mining group who acquired a engineering company because they wanted to engineer electrification systems for mining trucks. This went out as a big financial disaster because they took the wrong decision. But that will take too long to dig into it. Also, you can acquire between same size corporations like ZF and WABCO. You want to combine powertrain and brake systems. So first you have to decide how you want to tackle a big transformation. But what is in common to all of these examples? It starts with people. And in my opinion, it always has to start with people. People have taken the decisions that were either right or terribly wrong. And people have key competencies. So the first key competency that you have to have in this transformation is that you have to tell people the truth from the beginning. The transformation will take 10 plus years and it will be hard for everybody. And everybody has to have the willingness to adapt himself and herself. So that's where it starts. The willingness to change. To change the organization does mean the people that work in the organization need to change, and they have to have the willingness to change. So you could question if a mechanical engineer should lead the company when the future is electric. Or you could say only a few CEOs are transformation experts, but most interim managers are transformation experts because they do transformation every day in company stress situations. And then, of course, if you have the right people skills, if you have the right willingness and attitude, it starts with a big decision. Who do we want to be in the future? Do we want to be a software or a hardware company? So it will not work to become a leader in electrification of cars if you decide that the car should stay the same and you just change the powertrain. That we have seen. That didn't work. And if it doesn't work, you have to have the agility to pivot your strategy quickly. What does this mean? Concrete example, I'm currently working as an advisor for a battery cell development company. We are developing the fastest charging battery cells in the world. And my client is in the UK. We found that battery cells of this kind are very useful for mobility, fast charging. But fast charging is not yet there in automotive. So whilst we focused in the beginning very much on automotive, we had to figure out that automotive is too slow as a business for us to develop our sales so quickly that we could win. So we have changed, we have pivoted, and we are now going into robotics and AI data centers. Because in robots, everything changes, and you have to have fast charging ability. So we are working now with humanoid robots that will be in the future production lines, and we work with dynamic response systems that will be in AI data centers. So, for example, if your company is not Tesla and you start from scratch and you develop a new electrified car from the beginning, you have to be able to reinvent yourself. You have to be able to change. You have to have the people that are able to change. And if you think of BYD as one of the most successful car companies now, how did they start? They completely changed their business already. Although they are only founded in 1996, they started off with lithium-ion batteries that were sold in household appliances. And now they are one of the most successful car companies ever. One question to you. Do you know a company immediately that changed its business several times in its history, that completely reinvented itself? It's hard to find somebody. The most successful company changing its business completely from scratch was IBM. And they did it several times. I built a spin-off. I want to dig a little bit deeper. I built a spin-off for a company that changed itself 3 times. The company is in Sweden, and Bodo knows exactly what I'm talking about. They have started off 200 years ago in coal mining. It was a coal mining company at the Swedish coast. When they couldn't sell their coal anymore because there was too much coal and they didn't make money anymore, they changed into ceramics. They used the coal to fire their ceramic ovens, right? They were very, very successful in doing ceramics. They sold ceramics all over the world. When ceramics was a commodity and you can buy cheap ceramics everywhere, they changed their ability to use powder for ceramics. They changed it into powder metals. So the third complete change of their business. Powder metals are used 90% in ICE engines. So now you see what the fourth requirement is. They have to change again. They have to change their business from selling powder metals that are used in, oily environment in ICEs. And they figured out they want to go into electric motors, because the way electric motors have been built for the last 100 years hasn't changed. And they invented a way to build a new stator for electric motors. I don't dig much deeper, but what ended up with this powder metal is that the electric motor was reinvented. And if somebody knows the company YASA, building the most powerful electric motors in the world, powder metals are inside. And I built an engineering company that was able of developing powder metal-based electric motors. And this is the way how this company in Sweden wants to go into their fourth future. But still, they are working in ICE. They are selling powder metals to ICE, and they have to make money with ICE. So what they also need is the ability to sustain their spin-off for the next 10 years, because it will take 10 years until maybe everybody will be building electric motors that are working on powder metals.
Okay.
So summarizing, you have to have skills to change, and skills to change start with people. Thank you.
Thank you, Uwe. Now, Heinz, you have the stage.
I have to find my micro. Hello together. My name is Heinz Vollrath. I've been an interim manager since 2013, and I have worked in the automotive industry, after-sales industry for more than 30 years, specializing in B2B and commercial vehicles. Everyone is talking about the energy transition and the shift from ICE, that's in internal combustion engines, like what I mentioned, vehicles to the BEVs, BEV called vehicles in Europe, and especially in Germany. We have a very strong B2B car market. So we have 60% of the market as B2B car market, which places unique demands on the vehicles. In many cases, a commercial vehicle is an integral component on the operational process. Consequently, a change in the vehicle does not just affect the driver's experience like in B2C, but also entire operational workflow. In fact, that the 100% fleet transition is nearly impossible in the short term due to the leasing terms, operational processes, technical availability. So companies are forced to operate both systems, ICI and BEV, simultaneously. This transition must be managed in a cost-optimized manner. What does it mean for sales or OEM sales organizations? Driven by the customer costs pressure and the significantly lower but more specialized maintenance and repair requirements of BEVs, the trend toward fewer but larger dealerships groups in intensifying. These groups increasingly provide specialized industry, special solution like vehicle adapt with the conversion or with the charging station. This development is being furthered by the OEMs through direct sales, to special customers segments. Simultaneously, new partners are entering the market, including online startups and all-in-one solution providers. And we can adapt, or we'll see similarly in the recreation vehicle industry, where it's a complete different market. What does it mean? Our future model for me personally is like service like Amazon. It could be happen, but the question is when. And another result would be as well vehicle replacement instead of repair. Looking on giving all these demands on leadership and interim management, a clear roadmap is required for project steering. In this regard, a strategy approach and an accurate forecasting are absolutely essential. I'm currently involved in a project which is establishing a business unit for an Asian OEM in Germany focusing on electric vans. So the following future factors were decisive for the strategy orientation of the organization. And first, it's the sales channels. How quick will the transformation from dealer sales to online or other organization will occur? Do we still need dealers, or should we concentrate on a few selected sales organization partners? And the other point is the market readiness. How fast is the transition toward BEVs progressing? When will the market be relevant for commercial viable launch of these products? So I was a little bit faster, so I can give it back to Bodo, so we have more time today. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Heinz. Now we have a panel discussion with our experts. And so in this panel discussion, we want to know how do suppliers master the transformation. Our goal for this session is to move beyond theory. We want to demonstrate that interim management is not just about advice. It is about providing the practical solutions that keep your business stable while you build for the future. We have established that this transition is messy, long, and hybrid, and that the real challenge lies in managing two realities at once: declining ICE volumes and volatile EV ramp-ups. Let's dive into how our experts solve these problems on the ground. Heinz, you are often called in when the commercial and operational consequences of the transition becomes tangible. From an interim manager's perspective, what is the first practical step you take to stabilize a supplier's cost structure when they are struggling with the complexity of mixed fleets and changing your service model?
There are a lot of tools, but first is to see the customer demand, and then to focus on this customer demand and to serve a solution for this one. So this could probably not cost efficient for the OEM, but you have first to take care of the customer. And in the second stage, you have to analyze the processes and to define a new way.
Thank you, Heinz. A question for Uwe, the strategic solution. Uwe, you view transformation as a marathon, not as a sprint, you told us. When a client is facing transformation fatigue, how do you, as an interim leader, inject the execution discipline required to keep a strategic project from failing during the difficult middle phase?
That's a very good question, Bodo. Transformation fatigue. Fatigue means being exhausted. And again, this starts with people. I give you an example. If you found a startup or a spin-off for your client, and you know this is going to be a long-term thing, you would tend to hire only young engineers. Okay, but being young is not a key criterion for having a long breath. So one of my best employees, actually in startups and spin-offs, is a guy who worked 30 years in Opel, and he only he only was remembering that Opel was becoming worse, right? And through all of these disaster times at Opel, in the end, he was 55 or close to 60. And he said, I don't want to end my career by, just being retired at Opel. I want to do something new before I go into retirement. And then he actually applied for a job, and I interviewed him in this new startup company. And he's the most successful person because his ability to change didn't suffer any fatigue through the times he was at this car company. And he wanted to stay curious and develop himself. And therefore he is successful. So it comes to the ability of people, and that's inside yourself. So it's again, you need to find the right people.
Okay, thank you, Uwe. Question for Ramon. Ramon, as a CEO, you have a choice of many partners. In your experience, what is the specific problem-solving capability an interim manager brings that a traditional manager consultant simply cannot deliver during a period of high-stakes transformation?
Well, in my experience, and we used quite a significant amount of interim management because through a process of transformation, you question many things, and you have to change in a short period of time many aspects of the operation. And an interim management usually is a plug and play individual that comes and within a week can deliver results, and that is my experience. And I can give you examples where we had to turn around an operation of a factory in a determined country, and that was triggered by changing the management, bringing somebody in, and start a structured process, measuring the right KPIs and sharing the success with the whole team. And that is probably the big difference from bringing somebody in a normal process of sending somebody to an operation. When you bring a big expert mind that can start from day one and has the right how you say acceptance from the company because of that expertise and that knowledge that is coming. So I would say that is the main advantage. It's a fast and a structured way of transforming.
Thank you, Ramon. The further question has to do with our IMW global partners, the global solution. In our global network, we see that technology changes focus, forces business model change. Looking at the different speeds in Asia and Europe, how does interim IMW help international suppliers standardize their operational excellence while remaining flexible enough to meet different regional market demands? And I will give the answer myself. We have supported a large supplier in Germany who has production in China and in the US, and we have sent experts to help to optimize the supply chain. They had a lot of problems in the supply chain, so we could make sure with our experts that it works well in China, in Europe, and also in the US. And I have a further question for Heinz. Heinz, we know that digitalization only creates value through operational adoption. Heinz, in your service and sales projects, how do you ensure that new digital tools and AI applications are actually accepted and used by the workforce on the shop floor rather than just remaining theoretical programs?
That's a good question, Bodo. So first I have to say in sales, it's people business. So we have first to train the people for it and to take care of them. But it's true, there's a real disruption and a change because you have to how can I say it? So everybody has his software and his own tools and so on, and you have to bring them together. And there you have really as well to change in mind the sales organization of an OEM, because it's not his own structure, so he has to adapt on the market needs. And then you can come on with better tools with AI and so on. But it's a long way in the transaction, and I will say in terms on software development in relation between OEMs and sales organization, we are at German minus 2.0. It's really a big way to do.
Okay, thank you, Heinz. Now we talk a little bit about leadership, and there is a question for Uwe. Uwe, you emphasize agile ways of working and business ecosystems. How do you practically transform a traditional hierarchical leadership culture into one that is resilient and cooperative enough to survive the new mobility era?
Yeah, that is a very practical question, Bodo. And it also comes close to a question that comes from Martin. So the question of speed and marathon. You can only solve it from outside. You have to build a speedboat spin-off company that actually helps transform the whole situation and challenges the existing company. There are only very few examples where a successful transformation in engineering and manufacturing has been done simultaneously or more or less simultaneously in the whole company. That's also an example from Sweden, but there is a Chinese company behind. So it's always very difficult, but my way of doing it would be to start with a spin-off and show that it works, and then help the mother company transform it itself.
Thank you, Uwe. And in our panel discussion, we come to a conclusion. Turning uncertainty into action. Final question for all our experts. The wrap up: if a supplier is currently paralyzed by the scale of the transformation, what is the one quick win solution that an interim manager can implement within the first 30 days to prove that the transition is manageable? Who is first?
I don't know. It depends on the company, but for me, a successful transformation comes from defining very well the starting point. Many transformations fail because you don't define well the starting point. You usually spend more time in defining what is the objective. So a successful transformation is, in my point, defining well the starting point, and second, how much transformation can a company accomplish in a period of time. So I think the interim management brings that whole expertise of having done that repeatedly over a period of time in different scenarios, so can identify the best levers to change in a short period of time, as I said before. And it depends on the case. It might be that you have to work on your efficiency at the factory. You can work on the working capital. You can work on the quality. You can work on. It depends what is the situation. But those two elements have to be defined. And the expert that comes on board, as I said, as a plug and play, can deliver that fast and better than any other choice.
Thank you very much, Ramon.
It's
please.
For me, the most important is to define the stakeholders who's helping you in the project and at what on which time. So to make a clear plan, who is doing what.
Thank you, Heinz. Is there one last question from you, Uwe?
No, thanks. I'm fine.
Okay. So thank you very much for the panel discussion. And the message is clear. Transformation cannot be postponed, but the risk of execution are high. As we have seen today, interim management is the missing link between strategy and results in the automotive industry. We provide the practical judgment and the focus on execution that turns uncertainty into sustainable action. I will now hand back to Dirk to address any remaining questions from the chat and provide our outlook for the coming months. Dirk.
Well, thank you very much, Bodo. We have received 3 questions. We have a couple of minutes left. I will. The first question is made by Ludger Wiedemeyer. He states that the Swedish company you talked about belongs to the Wallenberg family. So they have a long-term view, a long-term prospect, and to change strategy. And they have a long breath to change strategy. But what do you do when the owners are private equities who have a horizon of 4 to 6 years to earn their money back, and who are extremely interested in generating cash flow to obtain dividends? Ramon, well, you work for a family-owned company. Antolin, maybe you can give a good idea about the difference.
Well, I think to get the big results and return on that, perhaps you have to change the industry and go to another one. I think this is an industry under a lot of strain, and they're not quick returns. So I think the perspective of family gives a longer period of time for things, but also has a constraint on how much transformation it allows within its framework, and I think that's the balancing. Yeah? How long of a perspective you have, and in this industry you have to have clearly a longer perspective on your investment. It cannot be a short-term return on investment. And then second is you have to allow your culture within the company to severe transformation and cultural change. No longer what you did in the past is appropriate for what is happening around you today.
I think that question was also intended for myself, because this was the Swedish company. A quick answer is private equity and long-term transformation, they don't match with each other. My last employment was in a private equity company, so it's a completely different way of working.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we have another question from Casper Haanbeukers. How can Europe close the execution and technology gap with China, given an estimated 5-fold staffing advantage and faster implementation cycles? And what will be required to prevent long-term technological dominance? Whom of the gentlemen is willing to answer that one?
I think that goes along what I already mentioned earlier. You need to be able to build speedboat companies that can thrive in an environment of agility, and it's very difficult to do this in a huge supertanker company like Volkswagen or other car companies. So you need to be able to work outside this environment where you have 25,000 requirements documents.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question, especially for Andreas, from Andreas Schmid, and especially for Bodo and Heinz, but please keep it short. How can interim management remain competitive in the market when in 2026 so many employees at Bosch, Volkswagen, and similar companies are being laid off? How can we make it clear to our clients that we are capable of doing things that permanent employees cannot, especially when many of them have spent decades in large corporations being trained to follow process, procedures, and complete paperwork rather than to improvise in a results-oriented way? Heinz, would you start?
Shall I start?
Yes, please.
I have a special view on it, because if I see it in the company where I am for the moment, they have so much restrictions where they can work, so they are limited on time per day. If they go for a business trip, they are limited on time rules. It's so much administration. So for example, when I'm visiting a converter, I can do 3 converters a day. When I go with a colleague from the group, we can do only 1 because he has so much limitations. And from my perspective, an interim manager is much more efficient than an employee.
So it is all about speed and less restrictions, to say it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, yeah, fine with us. Okay.
Well, then time is finished. I would like to thank, in the first place, Ramon Sotomayor, Uwe Klausholz, and Heinz Vollrath for the time they have spent with us, and that they have been as generous to share their insight and their knowledge and their experience. Thank you very much for everything. And I also would like to thank Bodo and all the staff behind this for organizing this webinar. And I hope that everybody has enjoyed it. And you can soon find the webinar, because we have recorded it. You can find it on the IMW website. Thank you very much, everybody. And I wish you a very good day and very good business. Thank you. Goodbye.